Solstice 2024 is here, and just like much of the game recently, it has also been updated. The kindling mechanic and the silver ash currency from last year are completely gone, replaced with a forge and bounty system requiring alloys and ingots to literally craft your Solstice Sublime armor. On top of the Bonfire Bash activity that we've come to know over the past years, we've got a brand new weapon to farm with the Void Fortunate Star, which can also roll with things like kill clip. That's right, guys, a bow with kill clip. All the weapons are returning as well, with updated perk pools, the something new hand cannon, crowning dual log rocket launcher, and the Compass Rose shotgun, which I perceive to be the best PvP shotgun in the game in that energy slot. No lie, guys. Say goodbye to that god roll matador. Now, all of these are of course farmable for this year's event. The beautiful thing is all of these weapons can be enhanced, and there's even a mechanic that will allow you to have all of these weapons with multiple traits per roll, giving you a higher chance of locking down that god roll. Today, guys, we'll be going over the new quests, how Bonfire Bash works, the new forging mechanic, how bounties and bounty refreshing works. We'll even look at the new Hawaiian themed solstice ornaments and much more. So let's dive in. Now, once you load into the game, you'll be welcomed with a splash screen telling you all about Solstice this year, including the new Eververse armor and the new event card. Now, keep in mind, these are optional. You don't have to buy any of this stuff. You don't have to get the event card. It does cost 1,000 silver, and it really just gives you a few cosmetic items, plus the ability to spend the tickets you acquire from challenges on more cosmetics. Most people think this is a waste of money almost every time, and unless you're like a die-hard collector, I wouldn't suggest it. I will say the Sparrow, though, does look cool, and I do wish they would have included a skimmer this year, considering Guardian Games had a skimmer, but no skimmer this time around. And once again, you do not need this event card to play Bonfire Bash or to acquire any of the loot. All the weapons can be farmed without this. Matter of fact, all of the weapons are free. You can get the armor as well for free. The event card is strictly for cosmetics. Now, moving on from that, you'll need to go talk to Eva to begin this year's quest. She'll give you a brand new item called the Solstice Forge. Now, this is the focal point of the progression system for Solstice this year. Now, the beautiful thing is that you can access this forge from Eva or directly from your quest tab. Think of it kind of like our oven during the Dawning event. Now, while the forge is in your inventory, it'll collect silver leaves from activities that you complete. Now, hovering over the forge will show how many alloys you have collected for each armor piece, while selecting the forge will show you multiple bounties for each Sublime armor piece as well. Now, completing these bounties awards you with different amounts of alloys. Once you have 100 alloys, though, for a specific piece of armor, you'll be able to attain a new quest to craft said armor piece. Now, we're going to go over the forge in more detail in just a second, but first, just grab some bounties that you like with the silver leaves that Eva gave you, and then load up into Bonfire Bash. But keep in mind, Bonfire Bash is not necessary to complete any of these bounties. We'll go over that in just a moment, but first, let's talk about the Bonfire Bash activity. This is a 3-player match-made activity that is selectable via the tower director. Now, it's a pretty straightforward activity. You kill the glowing high-value targets called ignition carriers. They will spawn around the map, indicated by diamonds. And once defeated, they will drop igniters. You'll pick these up, you'll throw them into the bonfire at the center of the arena. Now, they do have very strong tracking when you throw them. Just make sure that when you are far away, you are aiming high, as there is a bit of drop-off. But for the most part, it'll track to the bonfire. And literally, as you're throwing these things there, you'll notice the count going up, and you'll see the bonfire physically itself getting higher. Now, at set waves, there will be a Taken interference, where Taken will spawn in and disrupt the bonfire. Essentially, here, guys, just defeat them in order to reignite the bonfire again, and these enemies will spawn high up on the buildings, which is why these Cabal cannons are so important. You use these cannons to launch yourself up to the rooftops. Now, if you can't do that, you can, of course, just jump to these rocks that are floating and make your way up to the top, but the cannons really are very good for traversing. Matter of fact, an eager-edged sword is also fantastic for this activity. Now, keep in mind, you can pull out your Sparrow and literally Sparrow anywhere you want. You could even pull out your Skimmer and skimmer your way across the map. I just found an eager-edged sword, though, with the Cabal cannons was faster to me than even using a skimmer. Now, your goal is essentially stoke the bonfire with igniters as many times as you can before the timer runs out. But ideally, you want to get to that 30 stack. Essentially, the more igniters that you deposit, the more rewards you get when you defeat the boss. And after reaching 30, or if the timer counts down, the boss will spawn there in the middle. You'll take them out, and afterwards, rewards will spawn around the bonfire, which is really good, guys. We're talking like 4 drops of both old reprised Solstice weapons and, of course, the new bow. Now, this takes us to the Forge bounty that you just recently acquired with your silver leaves. Once you've completed a single Forge bounty, they all have different objectives, you'll then turn it in, and it will complete the first event challenge. And claiming the challenge reward will unlock the remaining event event challenges for you to view. Now next up, you'll have to speak with Eva again. This time she'll upgrade your forge, giving you the ability to spend 5 silver leaves to refresh the bounties of a specific armor piece. The reason for this is really just for optimization. There's multiple rarities of bounties that can appear for each armor piece. There's common, uncommon, and legendary. Now when you pick up one of these forge bounties, you can only hold one for each armor piece. Meaning if you pick up an uncommon bounty for gauntlets, this locks out the other forge bounties for your gauntlets. Now the only way to unlock those other bounties to be obtainable is either A, delete the bounty, or just completing it. Completing the bounty will refresh the bounties of that armor piece though. Now how the rarities of these bounties are broken down. Common essentially only costs 1 silver leaf, and they're very quick to finish. They'll have you do things like defeating combatants with a certain energy type. Very straightforward here, guys. They award 5 alloy. Uncommon bounties, they cost 2 silver leaves, and they either require you to generate orbs of power or to defeat combatants with or affected by subclass abilities. Now these award 15 alloy. Now I do want to emphasize here the with or affected by bounties. What they really boil down to is you taking advantage of the subclass verbs, meaning if it says strand in this situation, you're going to need to apply things like suspend, sever, things like that from your weapons, which means you need to break out weapons like Final Warning or Wishkeeper. There were a lot of times when I would get kills, even with my super, it wasn't counting here. So it was a bit annoying, but honestly, leaning into weapons that have things like Volt Shot, Destabilizing Round, Incandescent, Slice, those things that really lean into subclass debuffs fly through these bounties very fast. Now, one of the best places to farm for kills, if you're just trying to knock these bounties out, in my opinion, is Sure Chi. I heard Grasp of Avarice is also good, but Sure Chi is really, really good, as you can stack up multiple of these bounties, for instance. Meaning, I would take on multiple uncommon bounties that require me to create orbs across multiple pieces of armor, and then just go in there with my Ergo Summon Arc Conductor and just farm ads over and over, which would roughly take about a minute to clear. And this would net me about 26% on these orb bounties. And a lot of the orb bounties gives bonus progress if you're on a specific subclass or prismatic. Just to make things easier for myself, I stayed on prismatic. Now, these are good bounties. However, it's the legendary bounties that cost 5 silver leaves that give you the most alloy, that being 50 alloy. But they do require a bit more. They'll include things like doing Nightfalls, that being Grandmaster Nightfalls, doing dungeon encounters, or even raid encounters. However, considering this week is Fallen Saber, it's really easy to knock out 10-minute Nightfalls. And there was actually a moment where I had 4 of these bounties on 4 different pieces of armor, and after a couple Grandmaster Nightfalls, boom, those bounties were knocked out. Now keep in mind that each Sublime armor piece has their own bounties, and essentially you need to be picking up bounties for each slot and reach 100 alloy required. That is required to unlock each of those pieces of armor, and those alloy cannot be transferred, meaning you can't take alloy earned for your chest piece and then transfer them to your gauntlets. You have to earn alloy in those dedicated slots. Now there is an ability to refresh bounties, and this does allow you to optimize things. Although keep in mind, it costs silver leaves to refresh those. But yes, there are ways to double up here, guys. For example, if 4 of your bounties that you currently have in your inventory require you to create orbs, then hell, refresh whatever that 5th one is, that's your odd one out, until you get a bounty that also requires you to create orbs. And that way you're getting 5 for 1 when going out and getting kills and creating those orbs. And always feel free to look at the bounties themselves and see where you can gain bonus progress. Like I said earlier, some of the orb bounties requires you to be on a specific subclass or prismatic. There are also certain bounties that give you more progress when getting guardian kills, which yes, also applies to private lobbies. Matter of fact, all of these bounties can work pretty well inside of private lobbies. I wouldn't say it's the most optimal, but I did find myself in a private lobby game and was actually able to complete the bounties. So you do have a bounty or 2 that give bonus progress on getting guardian kills. You can easily do those in a private lobby. Now, what you don't want to do is waste all of your silver leaves refreshing just so you can have bounties stack up that have similar requirements. Because keep in mind, you still have to purchase the bounties, and those cost silver leaves too. And when you reroll for the type of bounties you get, it's random, completely up to RNG. What I will say though, if you have a team to do in-game content with, obviously the purple bounties are probably your best. Those 50 alloys are chunkers, which is essentially half of what you need for any given piece of armor. However, keep in mind the uncommon bounties and even the common bounties literally just have you playing the game. You could continue farming farming Bonfire Bash, continue farming for weapons, continue getting silver leaves as you literally get those for completing Bonfire Bash, and progress those bounties over time. You do not have to go to Shurichi or Grasp. That's really just for my folks that are trying to over-optimize. Now, the next quest step is simply to obtain 100 alloy for a single Sublime armor piece. So essentially, guys, just get to grinding. Now, for those that are farming for silver leaves, you get this by doing various activity completions. However, if you're looking for the fastest method possible, again, for those trying to over-optimize, you can do checkpoint swapping for Shattered Throne. Keep in mind, though, I don't think that's necessary. I was never in a moment where I was like, dang, I need silver leaves, because I was doing Bonfire Bash for drops of the weapons anyways, which seems to give you 4 guaranteed Solstice weapons after completing every Bonfire Bash. Now, once you have your Sublime armor piece unlocked, it will be added to the Bonfire Bash loot pool. Personally, though, at least from what I've seen, this does not diminish the weapon drops that you get, meaning it's just added on top of the weapons that you get as drops. We had somebody come by the stream and say that unlocking the armor pieces cut into the weapon drops for Solstice. At least from my knowledge, guys, and while I was farming today, I didn't run into that. I still got the same amount of weapon drops every single run, on top of armor drops as well. And some folks even say they get even more than 4 drops per run, sometimes 5, other times 6. Regardless, though, the armor itself doesn't seem to run into any issues in taking up what would have been a weapon from those Bonfire drops. Now, keep in mind, all of the weapons that dropped from me from Bonfire were all single trait weapons, meaning in columns 3 and column 4, you got 1 trait. Now, back to the quest line. Once you have 100 alloy for Sublime armor piece, you can acquire the Ingot quest for that piece within the Forge. This will then task you with just completing Bonfire Bash again. Once completed, you can grab your Sublime armor piece from the Forge, then speak with Eva again to pick up a new quest called a Glowing Solstice. Now, don't be distraught here. This is a 36-step quest, and it sounds way longer than it actually is, but it is essentially what we just did, gathering alloy for different armor pieces. And what this really boils down to is you're obtaining all these pieces of armor with the glow. It's just that this quest puts it all into one quest together, so it makes it look way bigger than it actually is. But you're doing exactly what we just went over to do. You're obtaining alloy, making progress to getting each of these armor pieces in each of these glows. Now, once you've obtained a single piece of Sublime armor, you'll be able to start working towards obtaining that armor piece glow via the Forge. This will require you to play Bonfire Bash and stoke the bonfire 20 times, meaning that number just has to hit 20, as well as obtain 50 more alloy. Then once done, you'll be awarded with an incandescent ingot, which enables you to imbue the glow for that piece of armor. This is that white glow that you see here, guys, and what this allows is that even retroactively, pieces of armor that you've obtained after completing all this will now have that glow. Now, keep in mind, it's just the white glow. This is the free glow. The color glows have to be purchased from the store. That comes solely from Eververse. Now, you can buy it via silver from Eververse, or you can buy it via Bright Dust. And yes, Bunty is giving away free Bright Dust over the next 9 weeks. Now, another thing you could do is also obtain higher stat rolled Sublime armor pieces once you've forged a single piece. So let's say you successfully forged the Sublime helmet. Once you've collected it from the Forge, you unlock the ability to grind for the helmet glow. And helmet bounties you purchase can now reward you with high stat roll helmets. Now, once you forge an entire set of Sublime armor, Forge bounties can also reward you with Solstice weapons. Now, these are the ones that have additional perks. The higher the rarity the Forge bounty is, the higher the chance you obtain high stat roll armor or bonus weapon perks. Now, the chance of obtaining these will appear on the bounty itself, with the purple bounty literally guaranteeing those both. It is through these Forge bounties, guys, that you're going to be able to get Solstice weapons with multiple traits. Now, I was only able to get up to 3 traits on a single weapon, but I did have someone tag me on Twitter and show me that they got 4 traits on theirs. I don't know how they did it. It's got to be super rare, but having more traits obviously gives you more opportunities to get a god roll. And keep in mind, guys, you can enhance these weapons, meaning if you have 4 traits, you have the ability to enhance literally all 4 of those traits. So I would say, even if you are here just looking to farm the weapons in the bonfire event itself, doing the armor is really going to net you the best opportunities to get those god rolls, as it's going to unlock multiple traits per weapon. So in the long run, I would advise doing it. Granted, don't rush. You could do this over the course of the next 3 weeks, but that right there will help combat RNG. Now, something else that was brought to us this year is the Solstice Keepsake Memento. This one straight up looks like we wrapped all these weapons with some tropical Tommy Bahama shirts. Now, in game at EVA, it states that imbuing glow onto a full set of Sublime armor unlocks this memento. Now, we grinded it out, got the full set of armor, got the glow, and nothing ever popped up that I received a memento. However, I looked down at my inventory and there it was. I'm not really sure, guys, at what point it popped up. I also don't even know how we get more of these mementos. It may be a random chance from Forge bounties, or it could be a random drop from Bonfire Bash. If I get more information on this though, guys, I will definitely pin a comment down below. And if you have any information, please let me know, because as far as I know, at least the making of this guide right now, we haven't figured out exactly how to farm mementos here. But keep in mind, these mementos, kind of like the memento last year for the Halloween event, this is the only time you're going to be able to get these. So if you like this look, if you like this drip, I highly advise grinding for it once we figure out how to grind for it. But guys, that is essentially what Solstice this year has to offer. Now, if you're a big fan of the glow there on the armor, keep in mind, you can also unlock it through Transmog, meaning once you've unlocked it, you could take those armor pieces, unlock them with synth weave, and apply them to any of your other pieces of gear. Not the sexiest gear, but not bad. Last thing I want to mention though, guys, is that this does not have to be done in the first day or even the first week. This event will last for the next 3 weeks up until August the 27th. Take your time, enjoy the grind, good luck with the RNG, and try to get those double perk drops, as that's really going to help mitigate those things. And potentially you may get the God roll on some of these weapons. And yes, we will be talking about every one of these weapons this week, as there are some juicer rolls on these Solstice weapons, which is surprising because normally these are like literally the worst weapons in the game. But we'll be breaking that down and more later this week. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.